What's up, guys? This is Network, and we're back with another video. And today we're talking about how to build a successful CPN in 2025. And this is educational purposes only, guys. It's an educational guide. So we're just going to be telling you how one would do this process if they're going about this process. So what can a CPN be used for? So most people use CPNs for lease luxury apartment homes, rent houses, no buying homes, just renting. Start an Airbnb company to make passive income. So some people create multiple files and then they rent out multiple properties through those files. And then they basically rent those properties that they rent out to other people through Airbnb and other services like that, so they can make passive income. Jewelry credit lines like K's, Jared, and even sales, high-end franchise jewelers, you can get jewelry like that through them. Care credit, a lot of people use care credit for cosmetic enhancement credit lines like teeth, any cosmetic surgeries and stuff like that people use CPNs for. And then also for personal guarantees for a new business. So with new EIN and DUNS number, you can also personal guarantee in the Social Security area with your CPN, and that will add an extra credit layer or barrier to make sure that your file is juiced up a lot more in regards to business credit. So when you go for business credit cards, etc. So that brings us to the next one: business credit cards from 50K and up, business loans from 50K and up, and all of these things would be included with your EIN and DUNS number, and then your Social Security number or your CPN number would be added on to that process, and that helps people be able to get those big ticket items. And that's when you see people saying they got approved for big vehicles like they're just the big vehicles like the G-Wagons and stuff like that on business credit. It's also with personal guarantees, and a lot of times personal guarantees from stuff like a well-built CPN. So this is all educational purposes only, guys, so let's keep going. So creating a CPN. CPN numbers should mimic the structure of a genuine SSN. Each U.S. states issue Social Security numbers based on specific initial 3 digits. In the upcoming slides, you'll find a guide indicating the appropriate first 3 digits for your CP, depending on the state in which you intend to create it. So, for instance, if someone's in New York, the first 3 digits of the CPN should fall within the 04013, as detailed in the chart that I will show you. Understanding this is crucial when generating a CP because financial institutions and lenders pay close attention to it. So, if your CP doesn't resemble a legitimate SS issued in the state you claim it's from, it may raise suspicion of fraud, especially when there's big ticket items. So therefore, remember this step to prevent potential complications. If a profile is being used for more high ticket items, this step is crucial. For electronics and smaller item sequences, they can be negotiated from available lists. So what that means is if you're not applying for like a vehicle or something very big or something that they have to have underwriters look over these type of things or manual reviews, you could get by with a regular sequence of numbers that you may have came across. It's not always super strict, but in 2025, guys, there is going to be a lot more of this stuff that has to be done exactly how it's supposed to be done, because a lot of people have been moving around all of the steps that's needed to be taken, and then they think that CPNs don't work anymore because they've been able to get around all of these processes for so long and just skip to making the file super quick and super easy, and skipping a whole bunch of public records steps, sequences steps, all of these different steps that we all kind of knew in the beginning that had to be done to build a file. But someone somewhere down the line, including people that I know and myself, I've created a file and the file was basically not created the way that it was supposed to be created. So then it ran into issues, and sometimes it didn't run into issues. So that was the problem. Some people created these files and then they didn't run into any issues, and they actually were approved, educational purposes only, and they were approved for things, and they thought that they could continue to do these files that way, and that has led into issues with CPNs being thought of as not working correctly, when really the people are not creating them correctly. So number sequences. So this is just a quick chart of number sequences for different states. You have to be very careful with these sequences because you can't use a sequence that someone is already using within that state. And you have to make sure if you do use sequences that you do verify the sequence on SSN Verify, which I will show you. Now, I'm not going to go through each sequence. I'm going to just leave the sequence up here so you can look at it, and then we'll move on to the next step. So number sequences. So once again, it's another group of number sequences for different states. And once again, guys, you have to verify these numbers and make sure that they're non-issued before you go ahead and start using that number, because then if you don't, you could run into the issue of having a number that someone else already has, and that could be an issue. And also it's going to be an issue with Credit Karma when you try to go and create a Credit Karma. So more number sequences, I'll leave that up there for a second, and then I'll move on to the next step. Now the extra digit right there, you can ignore that extra digit. It's 38739 or 30331 54557. The extra digit is it's digits you can start guessing. Obviously, you should know how a SSN is set up. So the ones at the bottom that says never valid, so you never want to start any number sequences with 3 zeros or 3 sixes or 900. Those are invalid sequences every time. They're never going to be real numbers, and if someone sees a number like that, they're going to know it's not a genuine number. and that's going to waste your time basically creating a file under those numbers. So just don't do it. So in this step, we're going to guide you on how to create a CPN that closely resembles a legitimate SSN. To recap the first module, so we discussed how to decode the initial 3 digits of your CP based on your state, so you should now have those starting numbers in mind and ready for use. Next, we would determine the final 6 digits to complete the full 9-digit CPN number you will use. For instance, as mentioned previously, if you're located in Georgia, then your number will begin with so-and-so. Your first 3 digits will fall within that range. It will appear as follows: 252, and then the numbers that you put at the end. Now, these numbers are going to have to be generated a certain way so you can make sure that they actually can work for you. So to generate the last 6 digits, you can utilize the following websites: ssnvalidator.com. Now, I'm not saying, guys, that this website is going to ensure that your number is not being issued, but it's a better layer of protection to make sure that your number is closely resembling original genuine number. So once you have your first 3 digits, 3 numbers based on your state's requirements for your CP, input them in the first box on the SSN Validator site, then use a set of 6 random numbers to complete the full 9-digit sequence. So on the following screen, prepare for a crucial moment. You'll receive one of 3 messages. So it'll be issued, death master file, or non-issuance. So if it displays issued or death master file, that number will not work for your CP. However, if it's a non-issued and no records of issuance, congratulations. You just secured a brand new pristine CP number. It's not being used by anybody, and it's definitely good for you to be able to use, educational purposes only. So this is your key to a fresh start. So write it down and protect it like a treasure. So basically, you can take that number and you want to be able to create your notes. So keep this in mind, and I'll say this a few times so everybody can remember, but you want to have notes of name, date of birth, the address. You can pull your address from somewhere like a Zillow, and you put that address from whatever location you're going to get it from. And you want to make sure that none of this information outside of the name and date of birth that can resemble your information, but none of the address or any other information in regards to the credit can resemble you. Now, a name and date of birth, anybody can have your name or date of birth, so that's not an issue. But you can never use an address that you used before or anything like that. So we'll talk about that later. But so to confirm, you want to take your newly obtained CP and visit SSN Verify, and then enter the number there, and you'll see if you can go ahead with that number. So attaching to your name. So to establish a CP profile, begin by selecting an address that is completely unrelated to your personal history. So make sure that this address has no ties to you or your financial background, like I was saying earlier, to prevent any mixing of credit files. So you don't want to mix the credit profiles. That defeats the purpose of a CPN. It's not a credit protection number if you are merging it in with your identity, because then it's not protecting you. It's actually exposing your identity, which is not what you're trying to do here. So it's important to receive mail at this location, but it should not be too close to your own. Consider using the address of a friend, family member, or associate for mail collection. But it can't be a family member that is directly associated with you. So if you had mail from your normal name sent to that family member's address before, then you can't do that. But if it's a family member you've never sent mail to their house before, or associate or a friend, you can definitely do that. That's always the smartest way, because when you want to do something on your file, you definitely want to be able to receive your mail. And the less addresses you have on your file, the better it is, because it's just more security on the file, because it's not all over the place. When a file is all over the place, especially when it doesn't have that much history, it doesn't look that good to the credit bureaus, and it could just mess up applications for credit and things like that in the future. So for the phone number linked to your CP profile, steer clear of services like TextNow or Google Voice. Instead, purchase an affordable phone with a new number from providers like Metro PCS, T-Mobile, Prepaid, AT&T, or Cricket Wireless. When setting up the phone service, use your CP address along with your name, ensuring that the area code matches that of your CP address. This information is vital for upcoming steps in the process, because what this does is it gives you a verifiable phone number that is reusable. So there are ways to get verifiable phone numbers, but you can't reuse them. So this is the best way for you to have a reusable, verifiable phone number that someone can send text messages to. Any companies that want to be able to verify you, they may just send a text message to your phone and see if they can you can receive the message and send them back the number that they sent to you. That's going to verify that you're an actual person and not a robot, or not something that's not real. So you definitely want to do that. This is very important. Back in California days, when California unemployment was active, people were sending text messages. Well, California was sending text messages to people's phones to verify them to be able to create their ID Me. So if you didn't have a phone number to create ID Me under, then you couldn't get your ID Me created, which would not allow you to receive your unemployment. And it was as simple as going to AT&T and getting that SIM card and doing just an eSIM kit. You don't have to buy a new phone. You could just go literally get an eSIM kit and connect it to any unlocked phone that you have. If you don't have an unlocked phone, then you can buy literally a $40 flip phone and connect that eSIM kit or that SIM card kit to that phone. So you also need an email address that is not associated with you. This step is crucial. I cannot emphasize it enough. A lot of emails and things are going to need to be sent. So services like Gmail, Yahoo, or MSN will work perfectly. Simply create a new email address, ideally one that incorporates your first and last name. For instance, if your name is David Jones, you might create an email like Jones David. So just make sure you put your name in that email, because that's going to be crucial when people are looking over. If you happen to get in a situation where someone is looking over your application manually, you want everything to line up perfectly, like your area code for your phone number, then you have your email set up, and you're also able to verify through text message, and then you'll be golden for anything that you're trying to apply for. And also, what people don't tell people is that you're going to be a lot better off when trade lines are going to be added on your CPN. And this is educational purposes only, guys, but when you go to add trade lines on a file, if you don't have this information lining up correctly and the authorized user trade line is being sent to manual review for an agent to look over it to see if they want to add you to that account, if something doesn't match up with that credit profile, or if they can't find any vital records for you, then they can just deny the trade line being added. And that's happening a lot in 2025. And that's why I'm telling you guys, for 2025, you're going to have to make sure that you're paying attention to all the details that people were able to skip over in 2022, 2023, less in 2024, but even more so now in 2025. You can't skip these steps, guys. If you skip these steps, then you might as well just not do this process. You might as well do something else, because if you're doing it wrong at this point, it's not going to pay you back for what you've invested up front, and you'll be wasting time. So if you're doing it, just do it the correct way. And I'm telling you, completely free, all the information that you need to know to do this correctly. You don't need to buy anything from me. If you just listen to this video and you do exactly what you're seeing on the video, and educational purposes only, but that's what would happen. So next, it's important to document some key information. So you need to record the following details. So annual income, time at your address, type of job, time in your job, and a few other specifics. Please stick to the figures listed below, as they're usually most effective later in the process. So annual income, I'm not going to read all of that, guys. So just, you see the income, you see the type of job, and always use the exact information consistently when applying for any services. So when you're applying for different places, you don't want to say at one place that you're self-employed, and then say in another place that you're actually employed, and then you say at another place you make 100K, then you say at another place you make 90K, because every time that you insert this information into an application, it goes into your record, and it goes into your public record. And if that information is conflicting, they'll just start automatically denying applications. So you don't want to do that necessarily. But for the initial applications that you do, it won't matter anyway. You'll get denied, obviously, because you just literally created this information and it's not tied to anybody. So try merging your CPN number with credit bureau. So you are now prepared to try merge your CP file. Try merging your CPN means combining the previously mentioned details in your CPN number with the credit bureau. So TransUnion, Experian, Equifax to establish a new credit file. This step is crucial for creating a robust CP credit profile that can be utilized for many years to come. So try merging the file is basically taking all the information that you've collected and putting it all together in the public domain so that it can be resorted back to see that that information has been together. That's why everything has to match. Everything has to be the same, because the algorithms for these companies will start to put that information into its own file, which people call like the public record. But to start an actual record, you have to make sure that the files are merged. And the files are only merged when a record is created with all three bureaus. So you have to go to different companies to make sure, with the same information, to make sure that that information is recorded on TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. So American Express, Drive Time, Road Loans, Capital One, these are all good places to take your information. You will be denied. It's not about getting approvals. You're just taking your information over there, giving them the name, date of birth, address you chose, the number that you made sure that was clear and good to go, and you're putting all of that information in, phone number, SSN number, and then congratulations. You should now be successfully tri-merged with TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. So then be prepared to receive unsolicited phone calls and emails on the phone number and email that you provided of the applications you submitted. Simply ignore these communications, but these communications are great, especially when you start receiving emails, because the emails lets you know that you are in their database. And if you're in their database, then you're in the public record. And if you're in the public record, then you're most likely tri-merged. So you're on the path to significant approvals, but this is just the first step in building your solid CP. It's advisable to apply at each site mentioned above on separate days, though it's not mandatory. This approach shows you are seeking credit rather than appearing desperate for it. It may take a day or two for an inquiry to reflect on your profile, but you will have 3 to 4 inquiries on your CP profile, which validates it and signals to the 3 bureaus that you are seeking credit. This will strengthen your profile with Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. Now, I've seen people before say that you shouldn't put inquiries on your file to create it, but that's literally impossible. You have to put inquiries on your file to create it. If you want to get those inquiries removed later, that's pretty easy to do. A lot of people in this chat understand that you can pretty much get inquiries off within 24 hours, but you want to wait until you get all of your information created and get your Credit Karma created, and then you get your trade lines added on, so your trade lines can stand for your public records as well as your actual public records before you go removing inquiries, because your inquiries are literally your record of you actually existing. So I don't know why people say that, but a lot of people just don't know what they're talking about with this stuff, guys. Like, to be honest with you, I understand why they don't know what they're talking about, because a lot of people haven't had to actually do the real process. They just literally skip all of the steps, create the files, and then try to go get approvals. That's not going to be like that in 2025, guys. Even when I create a file for you, if I create a file for you at the network, I can't do everything that you have to do for the file, because I'll be making a file for 4 or 5 hours at a time. So I can give you the resources, and that's why I'm here right now giving you the other resources that you need to explore to be able to create a proper file. So I will guide you on how to integrate your CP number into the public records database. Click here to log on to optoutprescreen.com and then opt in. And that will be able to log you into basically the public records. You give them permission to fully record your information. So opt out pre-screen is a definite good resource to have. A lot of people don't talk about that one either. But once again, these are things that people used to be able to skip over, and they would still be able to go places and get approved for $5,000 and $3,000. But now those same places are starting to see that the people that we approve with these half files or these new files, they would look at them as like a new premature file. They are defaulting, or they aren't handling the process the way that we want our customers to handle the process, so they stop approving these files. And that's just what happens. It's the natural way of things, guys. So you have to make sure that you do everything that you would do on your credit file on accident, because basically most people just do all this stuff on accident for their credit profile. Like, you do your public records because you're interested in getting a rewards program at Costco, or a rewards program at Kroger for your gas, or you sign up for some type of Walmart account or Amazon account. All of these things are public records. So this is what you're technically doing for your CPN. It's just you're creating that universe of being able to have records for everything that you do. So before public records in detail, I'm going to basically make sure that you can access Credit Karma first. So you want to start by collecting your email, name, date of birth, and any other necessary details to set up your Credit Karma account. Obviously, your SSN number. If you face challenges while creating an account, it might suggest that your Social Security number has already been used. And like I said, SSN Verify is not always fully reliable, and complications can still occur. So additionally, check that your computer IP address is compatible with Credit Karma. So if you've created multiple accounts from your device, there's a chance your IP could be blacklisted, which would block further account creation from certain browsers or IPs. Now, I don't see that as much, guys. What I usually see is the common issue is like many Android users or people who are using a laptop, even a MacBook, that they're making files from those computers consistently, and they're not clearing their cookies, and they're using regular browsers like Safari and stuff like that. And those browsers are very sensitive with information and privacy. So once they see, they record a lot of information. So once the Credit Karma is receiving the cookies information from your computer, once you're coming from those browsers, then it can create issues with creating the Credit Karma. So the first thing to do is go and basically erase any cookies when you're creating a new file. And also, you want to use the browser and not the app. So if you're trying to create accounts from outside the country, you might also experience difficulties. Obviously, you should use a VPN, but depending on the VPN you use, you can run into issues with that as well. So I had one VPN I was using at one point, and it literally cooked every file that I would try to create. And then I would try to create that same file on a different device with a different VPN, and it would work. So some VPNs just don't send enough information, like they protect too much information, and it basically just cooks the creation of the file. So you'll know your file is properly set up if you're prompted with security questions. However, in 2025, some users have recently reported being unable to access their accounts even after answering these questions correctly. So if this happens, your IP address or cookies, once again, might be obstructing the account creation process. So generally, the answer to the security questions relate to the county. So you just answered where the county is of your zip code. You can easily Google that, make sure that's correct. The county is going to be there, and other responses are just not relevant or not accurate. So they're never going to be accurate with the CPN. No other answers are correct. It's only answer correct is the county that you live in. And it's educational purposes only. And it's the county that the CPN is in. So I suggest completing these steps before accessing public records, as you want to ensure your file can be successfully merged into the credit bureaus first. If you can't create a credit monitoring account, then it undermines the purpose of having a CP. So stay away from doing this creation process on the app. Once again, you want to do this through the browser. So then public records. So this is pretty much common sense, guys. Public records, after you create your Credit Karma, they let you in, you see that you have a 0 score or just a plain flat line, then you can start doing public records, because this is going to help you be able to get approvals down the line in the future, because other companies will be familiar with your file based off your name, address, phone number, and email address. You'll start being able to create a paper trail of you, and then that's when you can get creative with your file and get approved for just different types of things, like a firm or these flex payments and things like that, where they go strongly off of public records and just previous credit. Now, we're not going to talk about trade lines and things like that on this video because it's already pretty long, but once you do these public records, then you'll be able to move on to the next step of trade lines, and then you'll be able to move on to the next step of getting approved for your own credit in the future. So building your public records is collect your basic information and then apply for these sites. You see it here. I'm not going to go over every name of the site. And then a good step to take is sign up for renter's insurance to further build your public records, and that's going to be a big one, guys. You sign up for these. These companies are definitely companies that report information to a lot of data collection agencies, and that strengthens your file a lot. Now, you don't have to do these things, but once again, I said in 2025, if you don't do these things, then you can't wonder why your file isn't working or why you're getting approved for such small amounts. You have to do the work, guys. It takes a little bit. It's a little bit more. And every year I say this, it just gets a little bit, harder. The barrier to entry becomes a little bit more bureaucratic. Like, it's literally just a situation where you have to do the work. So take a look at this, guys. Create an account on Indeed to start receiving job opening emails, explore job opportunities, Dice, ZipRecruiter, AngelList, College Recruiter. And then once you have done this, then it takes around 5 to 7 days your information to be fully integrated. During this time, you can continue building your CP file, verify your public record profile. And then after 5 to 7 days, you can verify your CPN, part of the public records, by requesting a consumer report from LexisNexis, and then you're in the game. So creation of your CPN is completed fully. That was a complete rundown of exactly how to build a CP, educational purposes only. And then you now have a fully functional file. You'll focus on establishing trade lines for the file to enhance the credit score. And we will discuss how to do that in another video. Once again, guys, this video is educational purposes only. It's only intended for you to learn about this process and how it works. I'm not responsible for anybody doing anything with a file outside of learning about them. So thank you so much for watching this. We'll see you on the next video. It's the network. Click the link below. I'm going to open the group back up temporarily, and then the group will be back to private pretty soon. Just click the link, and we'll see you on the next one.